Well, Ellie Kemper, many of us have now watched the entire season of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, part two. Um, just go back to the beginning of when you got, say, the first couple of scripts for this season and what your thoughts were.
My thoughts were, oh, all of these scripts are 10 pages longer than they were last year. And I was like, how are we going to shoot all of this? And so we actually added an extra day of shooting to each episode because we didn't, and you and I were just briefly discussing this, we didn't have to adhere to the 22-minute, limitation of broadcast television anymore. So that was very exciting because there was so much more story to tell in each episode because we did have this gift of extra time. And my second thought was this really picked up right where the last season left off. And I think what was so cool about this season is that each character gets so much story to explore, and we learn so much about each individual character, as you necessarily would in a second season. But I've never been part of a series from the genesis, and so this was very cool to make the leap from the first season to the second season and see, how much deeper you go, and to be a part of that was really cool.
Well, I'm going to say spoiler alert here in case anybody's watching, because we're going to talk about this season, and that's the only bad thing about shows, binging and streaming and everything coming out at once is people are in different places. They may not have started. They may be my co-editor here is like 3 episodes in, so I can't really talk about a lot of stuff with him.
Exactly. But again, I feel like spoiler alerts are off. I mean, give the spoiler alerts, but we're in a day and age where like everything is spoiled all the time.
Well, we've warned people, so we're gonna talk about some people that were on this season and some storylines. I do like the fact that it picked right up because there were some hanging threads from the first season that really needed some resolution, and you didn't want to put them off.
Right. Yeah, I thought that was, they get into it right away. The first episode starts with Titus's ex-wife and his marriage and what he's dealing with there. And I think that's great because I remember I had cut my hair. I had got bangs after the first season, and the writers were concerned, even then they said, well, we're picking up exactly where the last season left off. So you need to have, the same hairstyle as you did before. But yeah, I think that's cool. It didn't miss a beat and it got right back into the stories.
You are not necessarily working for Jane's character anymore, Jaclyn. Right. Talk about, I guess, you have several opportunities over the course of the year. My favorite being an Uber driver. That to me is just, top of mind awareness, things that people are talking about. I think you're the first Uber driver on a fictional series.
I think so, if I can lay claim to that. And that day was terrifying because I don't believe I was supposed to be the one driving. I'm not a good driver in real life. Like, I shouldn't say that for insurance purposes, but I'm not. And so they said it was one of these, like, what I'll call a New York moment where I think there was supposed to be like a stunt driver, but we were getting close to lunch and time was ticking, and it was just like, Ellie, can you just drive? Like, can you just drive down Avenue A? And so it was like, well, I can. I mean, I don't have a license with me or anything. But so I did that. I just drove for like 2 blocks. But as I said, it's an old beat up, I don't even know what kind of car that is. It was not ideal circumstances, but that's where my acting ability stepped in, and I pretended that I could drive. And I think that's a really funny storyline to me, that first she is an elf in a Christmas store, gets fired from that, and then, becomes an Uber driver, which is what leads Kimmy to meet her, therapist to be, which I think is such a juicy story point of the season. And I think it's better that Kimmy and Jaclyn reach a point of sort of almost friends, I think, instead of employer-employee as the season goes on.
Yeah, she still needs your help in many, many ways.
Yeah. Yes. And I think I need her help too, because I think what's cool about those two is on the surface, they couldn't be more different, of course. But I think at its core, they're both escaping. They're coming from something that they want to leave behind, but they also need to figure out how to integrate their past into their future, because you can't just, forget about what has happened to you. You have to keep that in mind as you move forward.
Well, while Kimmy is still struggling with her past and so forth, we don't really see nearly as much of the bunker this year. You have a couple of visits from friends, and I like New York Kimmy rather than a lot of stuff at the bunker.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, you cut out for 1 second there, but you said, yes, there isn't as many flashbacks to the bunker. But what about New York, Kimmy?
Oh, I like that most of your season was New York, Kimmy, and not, we're finally, I think, past seeing a lot of the bunker stuff.
Yeah, I like that the flashbacks to the bunker, by and large, are, I mean, I guess I'm going to call it the lighter moments of the bunker, if such a thing exists. But it's Kimmy pretending to be the Reverend or holding up a table with her legs. I mean, it is like, it's not the more serious parts of what went on down there. I do like it when we flash back to there, just because it's so absurd what went on down there. But I do think as you keep moving forward, probably necessarily there has to be, fewer glances to the past.
Well, and we actually see the kidnapping.
Yeah, what did you think of that? I mean, when filming it, I felt one way, and then when I watched it, it creeped me out. I mean, it didn't feel creepy when I was doing it, because
I'm assuming Jon Hamm was not actually in the van the way they shot it in the dark.
He was not. You're right. You're savvier than I am. I would have thought, wow, that's Jon Hamm. But yeah, it's not.
His voice.
He's a dead ringer. His voice, exactly. And also, yeah, that actor does look like him.
Oh yeah, I mean, it wasn't like I think sometimes I get way too involved in all this behind the scenes stuff, and right when they shot it and his face was in the dark, I thought, I'm thinking that probably isn't Jon Hamm, that they've bought out for the day or something.
Scheduling, things get complicated, but it wasn't him.
Although he is in the last scene of the season.
Yes, he is. And
I guess we could talk about that. I mean, that's, I suppose, setting up at least one plot line for season 3.
Which I don't know if we had gotten picked up for season 3 when they wrote that. So it could have very well just ended the whole thing on that sort of cliffhanger. But luckily there is a season 3, so we get to see what happens with that. But I don't know if I should say what happens. But in any case, Jon Hamm is in the final scene. I even remember filming that just on a behind the scenes note. I think they called him that morning and he happened to be around, and they said it was one of these logistical issues where if they didn't get him that day, they weren't going to get him. So luckily he was able to come in, but just for a quick shot. But yeah, I personally am happy that he's not totally in the past, because one of the main things that Kimmy struggles with this season is that she does think everything is said and done with the Reverend. At the beginning of the first episode of season 2, I think that she has put the Reverend in jail. She thinks, good, that's all wrapped up and tidy and put away. And as disgusting as it is, she keeps having these burps. She keeps having these horrible dreams. She keeps waking up in the middle of the night with like knives in the shower. And there's clearly, until she has a meltdown, a full-on, meltdown on a roller coaster. And I think that clearly she has something she needs to work out. So I think not only does she realize that just because the past has already happened, it doesn't mean that she doesn't have stuff to still work out. And I'm very curious to see where it goes next season with the Reverend. It's not over just yet.
And before we leave Jon Hamm behind, how excited were you last Emmy Awards when he finally won after all those years?
I was sobbing. Now, there's no reason for me to sob. I got up. I mean, everyone, he got a standing ovation. But I felt like I was clapping so specifically for him. And I was like, this one's for you, Johnny. I mean, I felt very personal for some reason. I was so happy he won that. I was crying. I was very emotional. But for anyone watching who I haven't exploited this fact too, he taught me improv when I was a freshman in high school and he was a teacher. So I just felt like, even though I'm younger than he is, I felt like a proud aunt. Like I was just like, that's my boy, even though he's so much more accomplished than I am. But anyway, very cool when he won.
Well, other guest stars this year, I'm going to get to a couple of the bigger ones later, but you told me at that party we saw each other at a few weeks ago, and look out for Anna Camp. And I know you didn't do much with her, but she was excellent. Oh,
wasn't she phenomenal? What did Jane say? I think she said, she's like, that girl comes to play. Like she was so, I didn't see any of the scenes obviously between Jane and Anna because I wasn't there for those scenes. And when I watch them, I mean, they are just, they're, as Titus would say, they are delicious. Like they are so savory and juicy, and watching those two go at it is just a joy. So yeah, I think just like maybe one or two quick scenes with her. And I knew her from The Office. She was Pam's sister on The Office years ago. So, but other than that, I hadn't really worked with Anna. So I think that she's just the perfect foil to Jaclyn. It's brilliant.
And also along those same lines, Amy Sedaris, she doesn't have a big part on any given episode, but she just comes in and it's like she's a pinch hitter at a baseball game. She just comes in, delivers a couple of great lines, makes everybody laugh, and then runs out the door.
But that's precisely what happens. Like on the stage, she shows up to work, delights everyone, and then she's in the van on the way home. I love her. That her as Sia, that was so fun. It is Sia, right? Yeah. Sia, the singer. Suddenly I was like, is it Sia? Is priceless. She's just a genius. I can't remember specifically what we're discussing, but it's Jaclyn. It's Jane, Amy, and me, and we're all in Jaclyn's living room. And it was like a farce almost. It just felt like we were in like this 3-person French farce. And that was the best afternoon filming with those two.
Before we move on into other episodes, what's it like for you to watch a whole episode put together?
That's so weird because you want to watch it as a whole and not just, you don't want to scrutinize your own performance in it. So I think I have friends who say, oh, I can't watch my stuff, but you sort of have to watch your stuff to see how it came out, I think. I think you have to watch it.
Well, at the very least, you want to see the others in the cast.
That's it.
Because you don't shoot with them all the time. They have their own things going on.
And you might not know what happened, what ended up happening and making the cut in those scenes. So I think so far as you can watch it objectively and just with that purpose in mind, it's fine.
Do you laugh a lot when you're watching them?
I don't. I know that's weird. I think it's because I don't know what, I don't laugh out loud when I'm watching TV often. So I think it's more like with that, because it is work and you read the script and you know what's happening. It is more like you're watching more on like a analytical level maybe, which isn't to say that the performances aren't brilliant, but just that you're watching in a different way kind of. Yeah, I think I laugh more when we're filming it actually. So I don't know. That scene at Mikey's house when Titus is so disappointed that there's no drama, that did make me laugh. That was very funny.
If I get to talk to him again, I think we're setting up an interview with him again this year. I'm hoping that might be his Emmy episode.
Brilliant. It's so good. The John Reed.
There's so many layers in it.
Oh, I know. And it, by the way, and like so much of this show, it tackles actual serious stuff, but then it's also, brilliantly hilarious. So that's the writing.
Well, speaking of writing, Tina Fey is back again this year, not just as your co-creator and head writer and showrunner and all that, and she's not playing the same attorney role she played last year.
Right.
She's now your sort of accidental therapist.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, all three that she was in are great. But the one, I think it's Kimmy meets a drunk lady, or I don't remember the exact wording, but the first one she's in is as good an episode of television as I've seen in the past couple of years. What
a compliment. That's so nice. I believe Claire Scanlon directed that one, and I love Claire, and I'm so happy you just said that. I think that was, for me, such a thrill to film, just selfishly, because I got to, I had scenes with Marcia, the Clark, who Tina played last year. Obviously, I was in the courtroom with her, but I didn't have any like one-on-one scenes. And when they mentioned, I think a couple episodes ahead of time, they had mentioned that Kimmy would start going to therapy. And then when it turned out that Tina was going to play my therapist, I thought, well, my initial reaction to everything is to panic. So at first I panicked, like, you better bring it, Ellie. But then my second reaction was, this is a total thrill, because she's, been a hero of mine for a very long time. So to be able to be in scenes with her was very cool. And I really, I think that dynamic of night Andrea versus day Andrea is perfect, because you get to have the comedy of her drunkenness. And even though it's a serious alcohol problem she has, it's funny. Or there are funny, I guess I should say, funny components. And then during the day, it's actual gritty, hard, meaty stuff that they're tackling. Oh,
I love the notes that the night version of her and the video, the phone video, I guess, that you showed her. It might be, and this is sacrilegious to say, it might be an even better performance from Tina than Liz Lemon. I mean, I just think it was so. Liz was always a little bit of her, if not a good bit of her. But here, I didn't see that at all.
Yeah, I can't apples oranges, but it's true that I think that's why I was so I felt like, I guess, moved by the whole thing, because you really are acting with someone, you really are in this situation where she's playing this young, sort of damaged but strong woman's therapist, and I think she's helping Kimmy to get at things that she otherwise would not have reached. And so that's, I don't know what more significant work you can do on yourself than that, to figure out what is triggering you, and that's what Andrea does for her.
Well, she's so funny, but also, I mean, there's touching moments, especially the new version of her, and it's almost like she's playing two different characters. I mean, she is playing two different characters.
That's precisely it. So talk about like what sort of I don't want to say showcase, but I mean, it's such an opportunity. I mean, you are playing two totally night and day Jekyll and Hyde characters. So
who don't get along, even though they're the same person.
Yeah, exactly. Which maybe we can all relate to on some level. There's some line about like when she's drunk, she's talking about DeAndrea running marathons, and she's so type A, and then once she has that first sip of vodka, it's like, whoop. She's not even the opposite. She's just like not even the same species.
And the season finale, you got just the perfect person to play your long lost mother, Lisa Kudrow.
How great was that? I think I found out, like, someone offhandedly said, "Oh, didn't you know it's Lisa Kudrow?" I forget who told me. I said, "No, I didn't. Nobody told me who was going to play her." How perfect is she? I mean, I keep using the word thrill, but I'm very lucky to be able to use that word. I got to act with Tina Fey and Lisa Kudrow in the same season. That's insane. And she was just brilliant. And, she's so smart. She's like a physicist or something. Like, she studied biochem, I don't know, something that I can't even understand, at Vassar. So she's like legit smart. And then she's just this hilarious actress. So that was really fun.
Well, there's another one that, I mean, through that whole episode, I mean, she could be touching, she could be emotional, she could be just laugh out loud funny. It's such a great role, but I mean, she was just perfect for that.
Oh, perfect. And I felt like, anyway, I love the comeback. I'm sure you do too. I was, right. And it was the same sort of thing where it, like, Valerie Cherish is so funny, but that show is so sad and funny at the same time. And that's exactly, I think that's what she did as Kimmy's mom. Same thing, where it's like, she didn't, at the end of the day, she didn't really want to have Kimmy, but she did. And she had to figure out how to deal with that. And that's really heavy.
Well, and as they say in the episode, I mean, I think Titus was the one that points it out to you over the phone of, don't trust what she's saying. She's just making you feel good, to get you out, to get you moving on to another day. Exactly
right. Yeah. Which is sort of what she does do. And what I like, what is so, I think, spot on about how they end things is that Kimmy does, it's not like she accepts it blindly. She comes to this conclusion that some things can't be changed, and that's no one's fault, and she doesn't need to be angry about it, I think, is what is this conclusion that she arrives at that day. She doesn't need to hate her mother for it, which is good. You shouldn't hate your mother.
No.
There, I'm going on record. Yeah.
Well, maybe on Bates Motel, but
yeah, I haven't watched that yet. But yes, but I
you know the backstory.
I know the backstory. So. There's some mothers, I guess, should be hated. Yeah, but not Kimmy's mom.
And here we are recording the day after Mother's Day. So
I know.
Just tell us about shooting that. I mean, that's such a departure, shooting at Universal Studios. Were there any? I know your people would know what to do technically, but I mean, like, fan problems, people shouting things. I mean, were there any things that we would want to know about?
Well, I was surprised, frankly, that more people didn't. I mean, because I don't think it was leaked that Lisa Kudrow ended up playing Kimmy's mom. I don't think I read that anywhere ahead of time, which I thought was pretty impressive because
I didn't even know till I got to the last episode. I'm like,
yeah,
what?
that's what I thought was interesting because Lisa Kudrow was there, like out in the daylight, filming on Kimmy, and I think that it had been out there that we're going to meet Kimmy's mom. So I was surprised that no one mentioned. I think it's Lisa Kudrow playing Kimmy's mom. So that was like a pleasant surprise that sort of remained a secret. And I think that people were. It wasn't distracting. I think that people would stop and, I think as opposed to the first season, people actually knew what the show was in the second season. But it wasn't. I didn't notice anything, becoming a problem or getting in the way of actual getting the work done. I think people would stop and look, but not to a degree that interrupted anything. And mostly people are just happy whenever there's like a film crew, like, oh, what's going on? But I also, just for our crew and cast, I thought it was really fun to go down to Florida and, it's fun to take a trip somewhere with your workplace. We got to like stay at a fun hotel and the days were short. I think we only had to park for a certain number of hours. Anyway, it was fun.
You get to go to the park for free. I mean, there you can't beat that.
You can't beat that. It turns out, now I couldn't ride any roller coasters because I was pregnant. So that was a bummer. I still am pregnant, but I was pregnant at the time too. And it turns out Tina Fey is the biggest lover of roller coasters you'll ever meet. And so that was the one disappointing thing for me because during every break, she would rush off and like with the crew or writers or other actors or whoever was around to sneak in a quick ride on some roller coaster and then come back. Like she loves it.
Well, how did you and Lisa shoot those really memorable scenes then?
They had rigged a roller coaster seat so that it looked like we were like rocking back and forth, but it was all rigged in front of a green screen, which I don't want to admit, but it was. How realistic does it look?
No, it was very impressive. I mean, I was thinking at the time, wow, I'm thinking not just, shooting the scene, but I know that you've got to shoot scenes over and over. And I'm thinking, how many times did they have to shoot this to get the dialogue just right and the reactions and the camera angles and all that? I'm very proud. I'm not afraid of heights. I'm not afraid of roller coasters. So I felt like if we had gone on it, that would have been okay. But how many times can you do that without throwing up? Exactly. And I was thinking, well, maybe you just have like 3 chances to shoot it. So I do think it was, at least by shooting it isolated like that on a rig, there was time to do it more than once. But yeah, I don't know how much your stomach would be able to handle going up and down the Rip Ride rocket. Well, a couple of last things. We were beyond excited for you to get the Screen Actors Guild nomination a few months ago.
You're so nice.
Sorry you didn't win, but we were just so happy you were in there.
To be in that company, that was insane. I was very honored.
Well, you better be on the Emmy nomination list in July.
Well, you're so nice. We'll see what happens.
Now that I'm in California, we're gonna storm the Academy doors if you're not nominated.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'll storm them with you. I may as well.
Well, I know some of those people. It's on ABC this year. I'm going to get with ABC and Jimmy Kimmel, and we want you to be a presenter too. We want you on the show doing something fun.
Oh my gosh, Chris, your words to like the Academy's ears, your lips. I mean, that would be fantastic. I would love to present, and I love Jimmy Kimmel. I'm so happy he's hosting.
If they were, I've told them for years. I told Don Misher at a party like around November, I think, who produces a lot of these. I just said it. My dream scenario that nobody's really done before is take somebody currently on TV, say you, and you get to help pick somebody from the past, like a TV classic or legend or somebody you grew up watching or something like that. And all night long, it's those pairings. And,
that's so smart. Why hasn't that been done?
I don't know, but I mean, you're talking about like standing ovation after standing ovation.
Oh, yeah, you are, and you're talking about.
And the chemistry would be so great because you would be fawning over whoever. Do you know if I were to say you could pick one person, let's say from the 80s back, 80s, 70s, 60s, anywhere along in there, that would be like your co-presenter at the Emmys, who would you want it to be?
Well, I mean, this is what everyone would probably say, Carol Burnett. I think that would be such a coup. That would be insane to go out and stand beside her. That would be very cool.
It'd be too much red hair going on.
It might be too much red hair. We might cancel each other out. We both.
Oh, you had to love that. Your SAG night where you're finally an individual nominee and Carol Burnett's being honored.
That I had.
And Tina Fey's one of the one honoring her.
I know. It was like all, I don't want to say full circle, but it was like, this is so unbelievable. I got to interview Carol Burnett at the Paley Center in New York before the Emmys, because she was, they were releasing her lost episodes. And that was like, I mean, she is as on as she ever was. She has, as you saw at the SAG Award, like she's incredible. She's a living legend. But that was a very cool night to have Amy and Tina present this award to Carol Burnett. Yeah, that was exquisite.
Well, let's see if Don Mischer's producing, maybe we can get you and Miss Burnett there presenting.
Let's just put it out there. I'll leave it to you now to get the request in. And if not, I'm storming the stage.
All right, all right. You mentioned your pregnancy, and also Tina's working on a Broadway musical. When are we going to see some more Kimmy Schmidt?
Good question. Next year, for sure. I don't know exactly when. Probably
not in like March, April, like it was this year.
Who knows? Maybe a little later, but I don't know. There's only 13 episodes, so, right. It's not 22 or whatever. So maybe yeah, I don't know. But it'll definitely be next year. And I'm excited for that musical.
Well, you're one of my favorite people in the whole television industry, and I'm so glad you joined me again.
That's an enormous compliment from you, Chris. And you know what a fan I am of yours. So thank you very much for having me.